Good morning, traders. It's Amelia from Market Compass. Let's take a look at what's moving the markets today. Overnight in Asia, equity markets were lower with the exception of Japan's Nikkei. Also today, throughout the trading day in Europe, equity markets are lower in Europe across the board. We've opened lower here in the United States, our equity market. Shouldn't be too much of a big deal though, because we've had record levels in equities the past couple of days. Let's take a look at currencies. Okay, this is the G10 currencies against the US dollar, one-day change. You can see that the dollar is appreciating against most currencies in the G10 today. These red lines are those currencies depreciating against the dollar. The other currency that's strong is the Japanese yen. And just keep in mind that both the US dollar and the Japanese yen are safe haven currencies. So we're going to talk about why they would be strengthening in a minute when we look at the overall landscape of the risk environment. But right now, I'm just going to talk to you about some individual currencies. So Sweden had better confidence data this morning in manufacturing and consumer confidence. So that's strengthening the krona a bit. But keep in mind that overall, the krona has been very, very weak since the start of the year, and that trend should probably continue. New Zealand dollar was a big decliner overnight against the US dollar, and that had to do with weaker than expected confidence data coming out of New Zealand. And that data dragged the Australian dollar down with it. I wanted to talk, as I mentioned, about the general FX trading environment. And to do that, I'm going to show you emerging market currencies. All right, these are EM currencies against the US dollar. Again, this is just a one-day change overnight and this morning. And if we look, we can see down here, Argentinian peso down heavily this morning, just on the opened just a little while ago. Against the dollar, down well over 8% against the dollar. It was down 10% when it originally opened this morning. Turkish lira very weak again today, down 4.4%. South African rand, Brazilian real, all very weak today against the dollar. But let's look here at Turkey and Argentina. Remember a couple weeks ago, Turkey had really bad news in terms of tariffs imposed on it by the U.S. administration, and the currency basically went into free fall. Argentinian peso, also the currency is in free fall. And basically what happened this morning in Argentina, the central bank hiked rates to 60%, and they asked the IMF to speed up credit disbursements to the country, and the market didn't care. Argentinian peso very weak on the day still. Let's take a closer look. This is dollar RG. So when the line is moving up, the US dollar is strengthening against the Argentinian peso. And look at the decline in the Argentinian peso. The currency is basically, as I mentioned, in free fall. And this is making the backdrop to EM very risky. And it's also making the trading landscape for, foreign exchange trading be rather risk averse right now. It looks like Argentina will have to implement capital controls in the near term, which is not good. And so that's going to keep that risk aversion in the trading landscape for FX. And so what that means is when it's risk averse, there's a bid for safe haven currencies. There's a bid for the dollar. There's a bid for Japanese yen. That doesn't mean those two currencies will strengthen every single day cumulatively, but it does mean that the trend for those two currencies is stronger as long as this risky backdrop remains in place. So keep that in mind. Let's now just turn to the G10 Canadian dollar, what's going on today. So when the line is moving lower, Canadian dollar is stronger, and when it's moving higher, the dollar is stronger. So Canada had some data out this morning, Q2 GDP. It was released around here, 8:30. You can see dollar CAD moving higher at that time. The data wasn't a disaster. It came in at 2.9% for the second quarter-on-quarter annual rate, which is decent. That's what the Bank of Canada expected, but it was below what the market expected. And so the Canadian dollar weakened. You can see it stopped right here at this 130, the figure level. So that's resistance for dollar CAD. And then support is down here at this 128.88 level, which was the low basically after the trade agreement was announced with Mexico and the United States. So here on Monday and Tuesday, on Monday we got news that a trade deal was reached between Mexico and the United States, and that also strengthened the Canadian dollar along with the Mexican peso. Today, the trade representative for Canada is in Washington, D.C. trying to negotiate a trade deal for Canada. The deadline is tomorrow, Friday. So she has indicated that they're going to work all through the night to try to get a deal. So certainly Canadian dollar is susceptible to headlines on whether or not they get a trade deal and how it's progressing over the next 24 hours. Those headlines should be coming out. So I think a lot of the good news for the Canadian dollar is priced in, but we'll have to see what these headlines are. Let's take a look at sterling. Sterling had some good news in the past 24 hours. So you see right here, British pound strengthening right through that 129.50 level. And we've been trading around this morning, this 130, the figure level right here. That comes in as support for sterling. What happened in the last 24 hours in sterling is basically the top EU negotiator, Barnier, the negotiator for the Brexit negotiations, made positive comments on how the Brexit negotiations are going. And so that strengthens sterling. So we're watching this 130 support level very closely. If we just look a little bit at the 6-month outlook in sterling, it's really been a depreciation. So a lot of those negative comments on Brexit have already been priced in. They've been weighing on sterling. It's not possible to know what kind of comments are going to come out on Brexit, but that's really what's driving the sterling. So we're going to watch very closely this 130 support level to see if there's a positive Brexit comment, it will hold above and rise. And if there's a very negative comment on the Brexit negotiations, we could break downside and it could fall precipitously once again. Let's look at our safe haven Japanese yen. We've seen some strengthening today in the Japanese yen based on those EM currencies remaining quite risky, that backdrop. We're down through the 111.40 area, and the next support really comes in at this 111.14, which is the 50-day moving average, and then 111, the figure. So we're just going to keep watching those as well for yen. And just looking at Kiwi, because it was so weak overnight, we're holding right here at this 66.50 level. If we break below, that would be significant, and we could short Kiwi here to 66.20 is the next support, and then 66 the figure. But right now we're holding steady at 66.50. That's what's going on this morning, traders. So good luck and trade well today.